to another episode. We are so glad you're joining us today. With the Thanksgiving season upon us, we wanted to take time this week and share with you some of our most favorite tips for hosting during the holiday season.
Mm-hmm. This is such a fun episode to talk about because, and it will probably be the most fun episode we do.
Yes,
so far, yeah, maybe not ever. So far though, because I just love talking about all things home. I'm such a homebody. I just enjoy being at my house, and like, even as a kid, I used to decorate my room and like rearrange furniture.
I did too.
That was one of my funnest things to do as like a 10-year-old.
I used to staple like colored Christmas lights around the top of my room. Oh, I loved it.
I had these tea bottles that hung from strings and like at different levels, and my parents hated them because they would like get hit in the head with them. But I just liked, my room was like my experiment. I could just do whatever you want with it, right?
Oh,
so it's just
so now we're adults and we're doing that with hosting.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And so we kind of just wanted to give a few tips on how to make people feel more comfortable when you're hosting, and just like, ways to make it a little easier on yourself as well as the host.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And not only do we want to share with you what to do, but we also want to share with you maybe where this could go wrong if not handled properly.
And the best example of that is the dinner party episode of The Office. And I know that not everybody has seen that, but it is probably like their most popular episode, or one of their most popular episodes of The Office, because it's just a train wreck throughout the whole thing. And basically, like, very quick synopsis, one of the main characters and the girl that he's with at the time, so Michael Scott and Jan Levison, they like have people over, and it's just so uncomfortable the entire time, and they make like every mistake that you can in the book. So
every awkward thing that could happen to you at a dinner party happens at this dinner party. And so there's a lot we can learn. There's a lot we can learn from what not to do.
Exactly. And so the first thing that we kind of wanted to go into is how to set the mood when you're hosting. And so like a couple things that come to mind: mood lighting, candles, stuff like that. Just like getting candles lit in different spots throughout the house, and just making sure that the smells are nice throughout and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Smell is a very powerful gift that we have.
Yes.
And you don't know what smell your home has because you live there and you really can't tell. I notice it when I go on long trips. And then I come back and I'm like, oh, that's what my house smells like. Yeah. And it's not bad. It's just unique. Every home has a unique smell. And so you kind of want to make sure you're controlling that scent with candles and plug-ins and room spray and things like that.
And it also brings nostalgia to people, or just like a good feeling. Like, when it's Christmas, having, like snowflake Christmas, whatever.
Is that your nostalgic smell?
Yeah.
Snowflakes.
They don't have smell, it's just smell.
Like, Christmas cookies or something, but no, snowflake.
There's a specific candle at Bed Bath & Body Works right now called like Snowflake.
Did you say Bed Bath & Body Works? Like Bed Bath & Beyond and Bath & Body Works?
I've done this my whole life. Bath & Body Works, they have a specific candle, and it's like snowflake something. So, and it smells really good.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you'll have to check it out when they have their candle sales, because if they're not, then they're really expensive.
No, always go during a sale.
Yeah, but you can do like candles, you can do plugins and stuff, because I've tried to do candles before we drive to Denver to pick people up, which is about an hour drive. I try to light them so that when people come into the house, like, this is more when people are actually staying for
like overnight.
And Brian will always go into the rooms and blow them out before we leave because he's worried about it starting a fire.
That's exactly what I do. I'm very specific about when we leave the house, going around and blowing out all the candles.
Yeah, there always has to be that person in the relationship.
God will lead you to the right person by helping you find this person, because they will keep you safe.
That's the most spiritual this is going to get tonight.
That's about as spiritual as it gets. But I know for me too, I love candles, but they do go down so quickly, and so I'm very hesitant to use a lot of my like favorite candles. But one thing I love is like the Glade plugins, or just kind of any kind of plug-in with like a scent, because you can just put those in different parts of your house where maybe you don't really have candles, maybe in the bathroom, and stuff like that, and they can just be always going. Another really cool candle hack that I have, and I don't know how many of you do this or know this, you might shop at much better stores than I do, but at Walmart there is always a little section where you can get the big, I'm talking like the big candles that they have, the biggest ones in the jar, that are normally, when you get the new ones, they're normally like $20. You can find a section where they're $5, $4.95. And it's in the candle aisle, and it's usually about halfway down on the bottom shelf. There's just, it's not blocked off. It's just like the candles there will be $5. And it's probably because they're trying to get them out the door so that they can get new scents in.
Wow.
But they always have like Christmas scents, fall scents, normal scents. Like they always have a variety. And so I'll always go there and I'll stock up. You can get 4 for like $20, and then I don't feel as bad lighting them all the time because they were so cheap.
That is so nice. Yeah. Candles are such a good way to just bump up the coziness. You know, people come in and they just feel welcomed with the candles. And like, I think it's just the warmness of it, because the other thing is just like your lighting, you know, just having a lot of lamps on and making people feel like it's dim enough where it doesn't feel like a hospital. Right? Yeah. Just like having kind of a mood lighting. And then another thing is the music, right?
Yes.
And I thought about Jan in the episode of Dinner Party where there's no music playing during the whole episode, as far as I can remember.
I don't think there's any music until
she just turns on that CD from her assistant, where I don't even know what's going on with the two of them, but she just turns on.
Something's going on between the two of them. we won't get into that.
No. And she's just very, like she goes in the corner and she's dancing by herself, and no one can relate, and no one's heard this song before.
It's so awkward. I hate it so much. But we may not be that weird, but how many times are we like, oh, you got to listen to this person. They're so great. We just met them, or we just found them, and you want to sit and you want to play the music and you want to watch them and see how much they like it. It's like, no one likes that. No one wants that in their life. Okay, like send them a text with it. But when they welcome you, when you welcome them into your home, you want to have something that's a bit more universal, maybe on theme. It's not blasting so much, but it kind of just cultivates an atmosphere of like welcome, so it's not like awkwardly silent either.
Exactly. Like for the Christmas party that we had last year, we did a classy Christmas.
It was very classy.
It was very classy, and I think I probably was playing like the more classy Christmas music, like
jazzy,
either the jazz or like the old Christmas songs. But the year before that, we had a dress up Christmas party, and so it was more, like the lighthearted.
You were dressed up as what?
Nutcracker.
She's a nutcracker.
And you were dressed up as a felon.
Yes. Jeff and I dressed up as Harry and Marv from Home Alone.
It was fantastic. You had like all the details down too, with the feathers and the stamp.
I gotta say, I got the idea from a friend who did that, I think for another Christmas party. And so I saw her with the makeup, drawing the makeup on Jeff's face of the iron mark, and then I had a crowbar and I had the McAllister M on my hand.
Okay, I was going to say, I remember a hand detail. Yeah. That's so cute. I loved it.
It was great.
We're probably going to do another dress up party this year, so I'm already getting excited.
Again, gosh. But yeah, I mean, that one, you really set the atmosphere with the kind of music that you play. And I mean, I know all of us, I have like been in homes where they're very nice homes. It's not like it was a bad or not decorated home, but it's like you can't put your finger on it, but you just don't feel super comfortable, right? It doesn't feel as welcoming as other homes, and you're like, what is it about it? And a lot of times it's not because it's not clean, or it's not because it's not decorated nicely, but a lot of times it's just a million little touches, maybe not a million, but several little touches that you can do that just kind of take it from being like nice to look at to, oh, I feel so at home here. And like you said, the smell with the candles, the warm lighting with the lamps having the warm yellow tone going on, no dark corners, and having lots of places to sit, I think is really nice. You don't want to have like, oh, please sit down, make yourself at home, and you've got all your crap sitting on the corner of the couch, and they're like, okay, I'll sit, next to your,
shoes.
Stuff, your shoes and your, animal bed, and like, it's like, no, you don't want that. You want lots of places to sit, have lots of pillows out, blankets, make sure that there's room for everyone to just kind of actually relax and unwind, and that atmosphere is going to be very welcoming.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, another thing to think about is just that people feel comfortable. Like if they can tell that you feel very anal about where stuff is at, and it's like they're afraid that if they spill something, you're gonna freak out. That's like very unrelaxing.
Oh, I've been in some homes where I'm like, I feel like my presence here is making this house more dirty, and I'm just like, I'm so scared. And then accidents usually happen when you're really scared. But it really just, like you said, has to do with like how you tell people and how you make people feel comfortable. Make sure that when they come in, they have something to eat and they can sit on your couch and they can enjoy themselves.
Exactly, yeah.
And speaking of food, one of the things that is most important with hosting, and also the thing that has the potential to cause, I think, sometimes the most stress with hosting, is the food. And so we want to share with you just some of our tips for hosting with food and food prep. I know for me, one of the most important things is, I think, not to overthink it. I think that's kind of the first thing, is sometimes I get this idea that like I need to have all these dishes and things, and then Jeff will be like, what if we get pizza? And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Or, there's lots of things that you can do that are not difficult, but people love them, because here's the thing. People love good food. They love good food. And sometimes you think like, oh no, I have to do something super duper fancy and impress people. The thing is, when you go over to someone's house and you're really hungry, do you want them to experiment on you? Like, not really, right? Like, I'm like, where's the food? I'm like, where's the bacon wrapped anything? Where's the, I want some good food. When people are hungry, that is the only thing they care about. And so doing things like taco bars or any kind of soup that you can cook in the slow cooker all day, or, and then have a few like sides, making it simple a lot of times will make it super comforting for people.
Yeah. The first time I hosted, it was right after I got married. And I think one thing that I was like unaware of is that I don't have to have food ready right when people arrive.
No.
Because that was something I stressed out about. And I was like, oh my gosh, this still says 50 minutes and they're going to get here in 30. And I was like, a panic.
20 minutes.
And then that's when I realized the power of appetizers. Because when you have little food sitting out that people can eat on and snack on, when they get there, it takes the pressure off of the host to feel like I need to have everything ready. And, another thing is people don't want to eat right when they get there anyway.
No.
Because they want to catch up with people. They just want to be able to relax, and people are going to get there at different times.
Yes, always people will get there at different times.
Yeah. And I've noticed that whenever I have people over, they do kind of congregate towards the food. And this is really silly, but I want to read it because it was fun. I wrote this little phrase when I was writing my notes, and it says, if all else fails, the food prevails.
Yes, that is so good.
Because I think about weddings, and I've heard people, like, they kind of complain about, how long the ceremony lasted and stuff. But if they enjoyed the food and they had food, like, right after they left the ceremony, they're happy by the end of the night.
Yes.
Because, they had good food and they weren't starving, right? Like in the Office episode.
Oh my God.
when they arrive at the dinner party episode, and Jan's like, oh, the meat only has 3 more hours. And Pam's like, 3 more hours from like 3 hours ago, or 3 more hours from right now? So, like, just making sure that people have something to eat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jan, like, opens the oven. Oh, it's not even close. Like, that's the last thing you want to hear when you go to someone's house.
Yes.
For food. Because, I mean, they're coming to see you, but they're also, like, saving their meal to have with you. So food is such an important thing, especially for guys, I have learned. I think us girls, we can be a bit more like, oh, we get the social interaction and, we can be good for a while, but especially guys, if they're expecting food, they need food.
Brian always asks me when we're going somewhere, oh, do you know what they're making?
I think Jeff asked me the same thing.
So it is really important for them.
It's super important.
It motivates, yeah.
And yes, people will congregate towards the food. And so something that I've learned too is that, if you're only having like 2 to 4 people over, probably not a big deal. You probably want them to gather around. But people do gather around the food. So if you're having like 6, 8, 10 or more people over, it can become really weird when everyone's trying to congregate around the little charcuterie board that you made, right? And so, just a little thing, cheese and crackers, which charcuterie is amazing because it's such a simple thing, but you just change it slightly, and then it can be perfect for fall or Oktoberfest or Thanksgiving or Christmas or summer or Italian food. Or it is amazing. It is your best friend as a host because everyone loves eating it. They feel like they're experimenting and going, oh, let me try this, let me try that. It's so fun for people, but they will congregate around it. So something you want to do if you're having a bigger group over is to maybe put some of it here, and then maybe put some of it over here on this side of the counter, and then maybe put a little bowl of something over here by this seating area.
That's something I'm learning for the first time, and I really like it.
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
Right? Trial by fire. And then maybe put the drinks somewhere else so that people have to go over there to get their drink, and then they might end up talking to other people who are in different areas, and that way you don't have this like bottleneck of everyone trying to get to the food, and then you've got this weird like circle of people just like standing, and then some people can't get in. And so
it's like uncomfortable. Sorry.
And then I'm wanting to grab something to eat while I'm finishing the food, and I'm like, sorry, don't mind me, But it's true. Appetizers are your best friend because no one wants to show up to someone's house and then be told, all right, sit down, we're eating, sit down.
Yeah.
Right, let's pray. You're here. Let's do it.
Or we're not going to be eating until midnight.
Or we're not going to be eating until 1 a.m. Right? It's like, no, that's not what we're doing here. So having those appetizers out is fantastic. And then also reverse engineer your food. So it sounds really fancy and intimidating, but I do this every time I host, even if I'm like picking a pizza. But it's super easy, and I do it for normal dinner parties, and then also something like Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to think about. It's coming up.
You have to think about it because it is coming up. And so what you want to do is, like we said, you don't want your meal ready when people arrive, because then by the time you're ready to eat, it starts getting cold. So if people are coming over at 7, maybe you want everything ready by 7:30. So then you start thinking, okay, what time do I need to start this main dish if I want it to be ready by 7:30? And then you can kind of plan your other dishes and figure out, okay, well, if I need the oven for this, maybe I can use the air fryer or the Instant Pot or the slow cooker, or try to find other things to use. And then also, if you need to use the oven for multiple things, one thing I've learned that I think really helps is I can put one thing in the oven, cook it, and then take it out, put the next thing in, and then give myself maybe like 10 minutes or so at the end to put the other thing back in and kind of warm stuff back up. So that way, if you need to have multiple things cooking, it can all be warm when it's ready to eat, but it doesn't all have to be cooking at the same time. And, there's a lot of things that you can prepare beforehand, especially if it's something like Thanksgiving or Christmas or like a big get together. Sometimes you can do desserts. I know my mom makes homemade pies for every holiday every year. Like, she's incredible. But she makes them the night before because there's no need to make them the day of. And so there's so many things that you can do like that. But if you just take a look at what you're going to make, figure out how much time it's going to take you to make it, how much time it needs to cook, see if there's any time it needs to sit, because sometimes I've forgotten that. Like if you're making a turkey, it needs like an hour to sit after. So don't forget that.
Yeah.
But just kind of reverse engineer and make a plan. And another thing that you don't want to forget to do is plan time for you to get ready. Especially if you're having a bigger party, you probably are going to start cooking before you're, dressed and everything. And so you want to give yourself like maybe 30, 45 minutes in between that cooking time to go upstairs, curl your hair, put your makeup on, get dressed, right? Like look the way you want to look so that when people arrive, you're not rushing around going, oh man, I'm so sorry. Let me go upstairs and put my makeup on, It's like you can be there, opening the door, welcoming people. I like to have everything ready. Like 15, 20 minutes before people arrive, and things can still be cooking. Like I said, maybe things are still cooking, but I've got the charcuterie out. I've got drinks ready. I'm ready, because sometimes people show up early and then you can be at rest and kind of enjoying the moment while things are cooking in the background, and people don't feel a sense of stress like, oh no, did I just do something wrong?
Yeah. And that's an art for sure. And it becomes easier when you do it more, because
absolutely.
It's gotten easier for me. And I feel like, we've had this conversation before, but we're different in a sense. I feel like you're a bit more like organized a little bit when it comes, at least I feel that way. But I noticed a lot when I have people over that like people are ringing the doorbell and I always feel like, oh my God, I haven't done this.
Yeah.
But it becomes easier with time, and just learning the art. Like you were talking about your mom making stuff beforehand. My mom does the same thing too. Like making certain things for Thanksgiving, like the casseroles that don't need to be in the oven all day, so you start to learn this stuff with time. But when you mentioned kind of people feeling like, did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
Another thing with food is not feeling the need to start cleaning up like halfway through the party or right after people eat.
Right.
Like the host, the person that is supposed to be like, communicating, talking with people, enjoying the night after a long day of getting stuff ready, goes to the kitchen and starts cleaning up. And it can almost make people feel like, are they wanting me to leave?
Maybe I'm supposed to leave.
Like,
am I overstaying my welcome?
Overstaying your welcome and stuff. And it kind of just makes it feel a little bit more stressful for people. So just feeling like it's okay to leave the dishes in the sink until people are gone, or like not worrying about even doing them that night, doing
Absolutely.
them, like
That's
just
true.
taking some of the pressure off.
Absolutely. Honestly, it's so true. I remember Jeff sharing that with me one time back when we were in our little apartment, which you notice it more in smaller spaces. But he was like, hey, don't do the dishes right now. I think people are feeling like maybe you want them to leave. And I was like, oh no, like I don't want them to feel that way. I just thought, I could just do them. But it's kind of like an unspoken thing. People just feel that way. And so, it's like you don't need to do that right now. The goal isn't to get everything clean and everything perfect. People want to feel like they're welcome and that you want to spend time with them. And so I think that's really important to maintain that mindset, because it's okay to kind of clean as you go, and there is an art to that as well, to kind of be doing things while you're talking, and there are some things you can do.
Absolutely.
Shifting over to dessert, you can kind of clean stuff up while you're getting dessert out, so it doesn't really look like you're cleaning.
Yeah.
But also at the end of the day, let the dishes sit in the sink.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to pay attention to the people who are there, because they're not there just to eat your food. One other tip with dishes is, this is something I learned somewhat recently, and I think it really helps, is to have an assortment of things to serve your food on. So some maybe bigger trays, definitely some boards for charcuterie, some smaller bowls for charcuterie I learned are really nice, some big serving bowls for a lot of your sides and things like that. Just having a good variety of things to use, especially during some of those bigger holiday parties, is really going to help. And a really good tip is to get them in all white or just any kind of solid color that's more neutral, because then what you can do is you can use them for every single holiday, and you can decorate with different napkins or foliage or other things, but then you don't have to feel like you have to like have a new set of dishes for every holiday, especially if you are a new wife or you're new to hosting and you don't have like the money to drop on a Thanksgiving set, like
Exactly.
I don't go out and buy Thanksgiving dishes yet. I'm not at that
Pottery
place in my
barn.
life. Be a Pottery Barn all the way, right? Like sure, right? No, I'm not at that place yet.
Yeah.
I think our dishes are from Pottery Barn, but they were our wedding. Like we got them for our wedding.
A lot of my stuff is wedding stuff too.
Yeah,
Like the
it's
plates
all
that I
wedding
have.
stuff.
Yeah.
I really haven't expanded my collection yet. But this is kind of how you can do that. All my dishes are white, and so it kind of works really well for any holiday. And another thing that I've recently learned too is get I don't know if it's plastic. I think it's plastic cutlery. Target and like Home Goods, and like they sell some like, gold, red, like any kind of color you want for the holiday, and it's plastic forks, knives, and spoons, but they look really nice, and you can use those and then you just throw them away.
Makes it so much easier
So
when you're
much
cleaning up.
easier.
Yeah, like 1:00 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
So another thing to think about when people are coming over is kind of just having a little bit of a plan for what you can do throughout the night, but not feeling that pressure of we have to stick to that, because people
Right.
will also feel that. I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's like feels like camp where it's like, all right,
Yes.
guys, time to do this.
All right, stop your conversation. We're going to all say what we're thankful for.
Yeah. And I've noticed that you do that really well. Just having things to do. Like they always have karaoke or
We just have lots of toys in our house because we're just basically children. And so, yeah.
I love it so much. And just having
does help,
options
though,
for
yeah.
people, to do stuff. I know for a Christmas party the first time, we had like a few games that we had set out. And if we felt like, stuff was lolling out a little bit, you can have people play games. And that was so much fun. So I think about the last Christmas party we had, and it was kind of funny because there wasn't as much as a plan. And Brian also had like a football game coming on.
That's true.
So he was like watching football, and we had like no plan, and we ended up watching Eloise at Christmas.
Eloise at Christmas.
Which was good. But I was like,
movie.
Maybe I should have had a little bit more of a plan, because I have noticed that people kind of look to the hostess for a feeling of like, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
So it's good to just have some ideas in the back of your mind.
Yes.
And we've been talking about the Office episode, what not to do. And you think about like them playing charades, but it almost felt like they were really bored for a long time before that started. Like you can kind of tell it was like an hour later. They're like, let's play this game.
I guess we'll do this now.
And like they did not read the room because no one was enjoying it, but they just kept going.
Reading the room is so important. Like you could even have your plan and it might not be coming across naturally.
Yeah.
Like you never know. Like sometimes we'll have all these ideas for what we want to have go on at a party, and then we won't get to any of them because everyone is just so deep in conversation, and that's great. And then there's been other times where I've kind of been like, oh, well, we don't need to plan anything. People will just talk, and then everyone's done talking. And I'm like, crap, what do I do now?
It happens. It does.
And you never know when it's going to happen. It depends on the people, but it depends on their mood. It depends on their energy levels. And so you really never know. So it's good to have a variety of things. Like Felicia said, we have karaoke machine. We have, Just Dance is a really fun thing. It kind of gets people like out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I love it. The people who say that they don't dance are the ones who do it the most, and it's really great to see people come out of their shell. But having like games and different things like that, especially if you're having like a themed party, that's a really good way to have like games planned.
Yeah, that is such a fun time to think of games too, when having like a themed party is so fun. And you guys always have a collection of YouTube videos too, which I know is not on purpose, but it's like amazing. They always have YouTube videos that we could watch, and it's so fun because sometimes
save like a playlist of like funny YouTube videos that you find, and then when people come over you can play them. That's a nice little secret weapon. But another thing to do is, and this is something that Jeff and I do kind of together, because when you host, a lot of times it's really you and your husband hosting, right? Like you're both the hosts, and even if you're kind of focused more on the decor and the food, you're both setting the tone for hosting. And so really when Jeff and I host, we kind of do what we call divide and conquer. And so, I mean, we really don't do it intentionally. Like, we just kind of realize this is what we do, 'cause it just kind of happens naturally. But we're not, like, connected at the hip during parties. In fact, we usually almost never talk at parties. Again, not intentionally, but it's because our goal isn't to, like, it's not a date, right? Like, we're not trying to get closer at this party. It's like we're trying to talk to people and initiate conversations. And so kind of like we talked about earlier, reading the room and kind of seeing what's going on. Is there someone that maybe looks a little left out and like they don't really know what to do? I'll sometimes go talk to them, and just kind of strike up a conversation. And then another thing, especially when you're having different friends come over, is a lot of times I've introduced people. So if someone looks left out or the conversation's kind of lulling, you can introduce them to someone else and then bring up a common interest. And I've done this before where I've had friends meet other friends of mine. I've been like, oh, hey, this is so-and-so. Hey, don't you do this? Or don't you like this?
I'm wondering what common interest you've used on
me. I've had to
me.
infuse Felicia into the group, person by person.
That is not true.
That is not true.
Brian infused me to you, though. I remember.
Really? What did he say?
Well, no, I don't. He didn't do anything. I just I met you through Brian. I met a lot of people through Brian.
That's true.
Yeah.
Infusion is what helps, but but basically, I mean, that's something that you can do is when you know people and you know, like, oh, hey, I think like maybe they have the same interest, maybe they do something interesting at work, or something. And you can kind of bring that up. And I'm telling you, it's amazing to watch it catch fire. And then you can just slowly step away. And they're just talking. And then it's amazing. And that has happened to me so many times. Like, so many of my friends, I think, are so close. But it's like, oh, they actually met through us. And it's just really neat to kind of see that happen. And so seeing yourself as the host, as the person who's kind of beep, beep, be like
keeping status.
Keeping status on just how things are going. And it doesn't mean you have to be weird about it, you know,
No.
but just kind of having so it'd be so easy to kind of get into a conversation yourself and be so wrapped up in it, and then you've got like this person over here who doesn't really know what to do. And it's just nice to kind of just be aware of kind of what's going on. And like if people are feeling left out, or because a lot of times it's not that they're feeling left out, they just don't know what to say. And so getting a conversation going, getting a just dance party going, getting, you know, something going can really, really help if you're the one who's kind of reading the room.
Yeah. And a lot of times you would be the one to know two separate people who don't know each other.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So when I started hosting right after Brian and I got married, I noticed that even though I was always really excited about it, I would start to get really stressed like an hour before, because maybe it's a time management issue on my part, but I would always feel like by the end, when people are showing up, I'm like, oh, I don't have this ready. I don't have this ready. And I had so much pressure on myself. And I'm like, I'm feeling more stressed than I am feeling just like, you know, wanting to talk to people. And I'm like thinking so much about what's going on at the house. And I noticed that, you know, that kind of takes away the point of having people over. If you're so stressed and people can feel that from you, like they will take notice of it, you know? So I've noticed that what's a good thing to do is just like try to get things done a little before. And, you know, just sit down, relax, start listening to the music, start kind of enjoying the party before the party.
Oh, yeah.
Like start enjoying.
Sample the charcuterie.
Sample the charcuterie. Like do things that you need to do to kind of get relaxed, you know, like, you know, this is a little bit more serious, but it does happen. Like if you and your spouse are having a fight or something that day, you know, like just making sure that you guys have talked about it and that you're not on a weird place like Michael and Jan were, and where like so much had built up and they hadn't talked about it that they were just like slamming at each other the whole time.
So passive aggressive and then
aggressive comments. And it's like people can see what's going on, you know. So just making sure that stuff is good with you before people come.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really important. And I mean, I think that's super important. Just kind of staying calm and at peace and really enjoying the party, like you said. Because if you're not enjoying your own party, then why would people feel like they can enjoy your party? But people will really feed off of your energy. And so especially as the host. And so just kind of having a mentality, it doesn't mean you're fake. It just means that, you know what? Right now I'm hosting and this is what I'm doing, so I'm making a choice to put any stress or anxiety or things that I have going on in my life aside, and I'm going to focus on this. And I don't think that's being fake at all. I think that that's choosing, you know, to be a gracious host even in the midst of everything going on, because you're never going to host a party where you don't have anything that you could be stressing about.
Exactly.
You know, so it's not really about removing all temptation to stress. It's about learning how to deal with it in the moment and not just give over to those emotions when they come.
Yeah.
A good scripture for that is 1 Peter 4:8-9, and it says, "Above all, maintain constant love for one another, since love covers a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without complaining." And I remember I read that one time and I realized, and this was a while back, but I think I realized that I would start letting a bit of a complaining spirit kind of come over me when I was hosting. And it's so easy to do, even if you love hosting, but you can think about, you know, the groceries and how much money you're spending on the food. And maybe when people don't bring anything over, even if they weren't supposed to, it's like, oh, okay, I guess they're expecting, you know, this on me. And then it's so easy to start turning something that was meant to be a gift, turning it into an expectation. Of like, oh, well, I did this for you, expecting that you would kind of reciprocate or that you would appreciate me in this way and you would show it to me in this way.
Yeah.
That's not true giving, right? That's not a real gift if there's strings attached. And so I really felt like God was showing me that, you know, your hospitality to people, when you host a party, when you host people in your home, it's a form of giving. It's a form of sowing a seed. But if you start complaining about it and you start putting expectations on people for it, then you're kind of ripping that seed out of the ground and going, no, this is no longer a seed I'm sowing. This is an expectation and even trade that I'm expecting.
Yeah.
And so instead, you know, we need to look at it as sowing a seed of like, I'm giving this. This is money I'm sowing into my friends. This is time I'm sowing into my friends. And it's a sacrifice.
Yeah,
it really is. But if you look at it this way, not only does it invest in your future and invest in things, but it also takes all of the stress and expectations off of the evening, and you can enjoy it, and then the people can feel like they can enjoy it because they don't feel like you've got this like expectation, or you're frustrated by how much you had to spend or how much time it took you to clean the house or something like that.
Yeah, that's good. I know that another thing for me that would make me really stressed before people would come is the cleaning. And we've all seen those YouTube videos of like the funny moms that are like, throwing the vacuum around, and it's like, why didn't you dust under the bed? And it's like, the frames broken. Oh my gosh, I have to send you those. But it's just like, Trey Kennedy does one. If anybody doesn't know Trey Kennedy, he's done one. It's very funny. But that started to happen to me, I'm like,
you start cleaning things that you've never cleaned before in
and
your life.
No one's gonna see.
People are gonna notice if the baseboards are dusty.
Yeah, it's so real. Like, it actually can be a temptation, and it makes me think of Mary and Martha.
Yes. Classic hospitality story.
That's actually very classic. I didn't think about that until this moment. And it's like that the girl was so stressed about getting stuff clean, and even though the point of that was having a conversation with Jesus, or in our case having conversations with people that are coming over, like that's what hosting is about. Yeah. It's about that community and that time to, share struggles or share funny stories or just relax and enjoy people's presence. And we can get so caught up in making the night perfect.
Right.
And then, it kind of takes away from the point of it all.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with trying to give people a wonderful time and a wonderful experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's so true that it's so easy for it to kind of start shifting over into this ditch of like, now you're noticing every little thing that's wrong with your house, and you're noticing this, noticing that. And it can be super stressful, but realizing that, no one's home is perfect, and no one's coming over to your house thinking that it's going to be perfect. Let's just be honest. And so, it's so important to realize that, you can do your best to steward your home and to make it a wonderful time for people, and for the food to be wonderful and the atmosphere to be welcoming. But the most important thing that will make people feel welcome is your heart for them and your time with them and your conversation with them. And really, at the end of the day, that is what hosting is truly all about.
And it's definitely a balance. Like you said, like people, like we get feelings from colors, we get feelings from sounds. And I know that even for myself, if my house is messy and it's crazy, it stresses me out. So the point of cleaning is so that people will feel comfortable. They won't feel stressed by the environment. But it's that balance of like, okay, stuff is tidy enough, but now like it's time to have time with people. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if there's anybody you feel could use this holiday season, please share it with them.
Yes, and if you enjoyed this episode, be sure and subscribe to this podcast so that you can catch all of our future holiday episodes coming up very, very soon. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.